listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I love how the Skype ring sounds like I'm on the set of a very bad, like, mid-'80s game show that, you know, we would have watched as children. You know, do.
It's a bit more professional than we were used to. A bit more professional than Bullseye and
Record Breakers and what was it? Blockbuster. Oh, it's so good.
That was a good theme tune.
It was a good theme tune, but
catchphrase, that was another good one.
What was the catchphrase? What was the catchphrase?
Oh, I don't know. Not good. I mean, it wasn't good, whatever it was.
Okay, all right.
So, would you mind frightfully if we made it? Tried to get in and out. I didn't stop work till midnight last night.
Yeah, no, of course.
So I didn't get to bed till 2. So I need to try and.
Wow. I know we don't get to like talk very much like outside of doing the podcast, but like what on earth? What on earth requires this many hours? Unless you are manually performing every single show that is on Peacock as people are picking it. Well, what is taking 8 in the morning to midnight every day?
It's a team of two. It's a team of 2 people looking after all of the promotion for it's a streaming service.
Yeah, it's still
owned by NBC, right?
Yeah, it's boggling.
And they don't have a lot of money because they're not, they don't have any blockbuster movies. They don't have their parks open. So all they've got is their...
My heart weeps for NBC Universal.
I'm just saying,
however will they get through
I'm not, but at no point am I saying get the violin out for NBC. I'm saying they don't have money to spend on Peacock, right? So what they do instead, because they don't have advertisers...
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, they do have money. They just don't want to spend it.
No, okay. Would you just... Maybe let me get to the end.
Okay.
Then
skip to the end.
The cultural criticism would be just better focused. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just wasting our time.
Oh no. God forbid. God forbid that this.
There's some you know what I mean. Some laser focused, scalpel sharp industry commentary coming my way.
God forbid, Jim, that this podcast.
With only half the facts at your disposal.
God forbid that this podcast waste our time. I mean, God forbid.
You wasting my time by forcing me halfway through telling you what's going on. Like, at regular intervals of about 45 seconds, I have to stop.
Anyway,
what's going on.
I don't care anymore. I've given up.
Well, you asked me a question, and I was answering it, and then you just kept interrupting me.
No. Answer it. I genuinely care.
So the point is, so they don't have any advertisers. They don't have any money to spend on their thing. Mm-hmm. So they're promoting Peacock by putting Peacock promos on every single network that they own, which is like 100 TV stations.
Yeah.
And each spot has to be sent to all these stations with individual instructions and numbers and all that stuff, and put into like 8 different systems, and I'm doing that.
And then you and one other dude have to perform every single show that's on Peacock all of the time.
Yeah, that has to happen as well. Yeah, that happens as well.
So you have like a series of hats and wigs and stuff in a big box.
Yeah, I know that. But the thing is, right, all you're doing is projecting, because that is your dream. It's backed by a multinational corporation to be able to sit in a room with just 2 wigs and make us programs and don't stop until you die, and we'll keep giving you money while you do it. That's your idea of fucking heaven.
Occasionally you'd put on a wig and be like, I don't understand.
And then every now and then, right, and you could, like, every month or 2, you could go into like you could go to like a black mood seclusion. Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to like create anything, and then people like being going, give us content, we want content. You're like, no, I'm creatively tapped out. You know what I mean? And then they could like give you more money, and then you could start up again. Is
this like a thinly veiled attack at my mental health? Because I do feel I do feel attacked. I do feel attacked. What's interesting though is that although I've berated you since we got on here,
Yeah.
I have a compliment for you.
Oh, wow.
Which is that certainly over the last few days, and I'm going to blame the film. I'm going to blame Keys to Tulsa, even though it isn't that at all. But the last few days have definitely been one for the I don't know what's going on anymore kind of books or whatever. And I was kind of dreading, like I saw the bum-faced spectre looming of this podcast.
Me or Stoltz?
Both. Or either. It doesn't matter. You and Stoltz.
I'm the Stoltz of your friends. I'm the Eric Stoltz of people you know.
As long as you're not the Michael Rooker, the horrendously sweaty, overacting member of my friend group, then we're fine. But no, I felt
you, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I felt the bum-faced spectre of podcasting looming, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do. I'm not going to be able to give my all. I'm not going to be able to find some positivity, be able to whatever. And actually, now that I'm sat here doing it, I'm already having a better time. I'm already having a good time.
I'm glad to hear it, mate. That's great.
So while you might think, oh, he's doing that, horrible cultural analysis of my livelihood and my wife's livelihood, and you might hate my bum face and my guts.
I don't
now.
at all. I was just. It was merely a more complicated way of saying, would you mind shutting your cake hole while I actually answer the question?
Which is fair. I mean, as I think about it, that's very reasonable. Because I did ask you a question and then just proceeded to be like, blah-de-blah, my stuff.
Yeah. Not your stuff. It wasn't like that. It was more like, even I've asked you the question. What I've really done is it's been a setup for a series of jokes that I can tell myself.
A tissue-thin setup.
Yeah.
A wisp of a setup.
A wisp of an excuse to make gags, which is fine. That's what the podcast is. I mean, what is this podcast if not a wisp of an excuse for both of us to make weak jokes?
What's funny is that the people listening to us right now wish that our respective wives...
Wait, are we recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The listeners listening to us wish that our respective wives had made us gags so that we couldn't be heard right now, because they already hate both of us.
They do. I think that the longer you're married to us, the more like a mental gag like a psychological gag starts to develop in their mind.
Yeah.
Where we can be like talking and they can be like they go, oh yeah. So that's why when we're talking they go, oh, like they're nodding, but really they're just nodding along to the in their heads, not us talking, which is very healthy, and I applaud it.
I applaud it 100%. Kim and I have had many an occasion during quarantine where Kim is, I've said something, and Kim's like, "Oh, you're gonna do that, or we're doing that, or you bought that, or whatever it is," and I'm like, "Yeah, we had a whole discussion about it." And she's going, "Yeah, no, I don't listen to you." And fair. No, that again. That's perfectly reasonable.
It's sort of like, how reasonable. I don't know if you have this at all, but with the whole new, every meeting is over Skype or Zoom or whatever. But you get the thing where they go, "Oh, I'll just share my screen," and you share your screen.
Yeah.
Or they share their screen while they're talking to you, and all of a sudden you're confronted with a huge image of your own face.
Yes.
And every time I go, ugh, like that. Every time I see it, do you know what I mean? Not like shock, but like actual repulsion at my own fizzle.
I thought you were going to say, and then you get to that point of the meeting where someone says, "I'm going to share my screen," and your soul dies just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you're like, whatever they're about to show me on the screen is most definitely not going to be interesting, and I'm going to have to.
Yeah, but my point is, it's worse than not interesting. It's my face. Do you know what I mean?
Why are they showing you?
It's just a shocking thing to see.
Why are they showing you your own face?
And because they've got my face on their screen while they're talking to me.
Oh, they don't know how to share their screen, so
and
they're
then
sharing
when you
their
share
whole
the screen, there's a brief moment where
No, I understand, but they're sharing it incorrectly. What they're doing is sharing the whole screen rather than sharing the window that they
Well, it
choose
depends
to share.
depends what system they're using, doesn't it, mate?
Or it depends if they know how to use the system in question.
Well, listen, I work for a multi-billion-dollar media company, and no one knows.
Yeah, where they have two
how to
people.
work anything.
They have two people working on hamster wheels, as far as I can figure out, to power the advertising for the entire NBC brand. And why not? Hallelujah to NBC. This show is, we have to legally say, in no way endorsed by NBC, Peacock, or any of its affiliates.
If they could put any more distance between themselves and whatever it is this is.
Whatever this is.
If they could make us the first podcast on the moon.
Yeah.
But without any kind of broadcast capability. Where we just put us on the moon on a table talking and just left there. That's what they would do.
Well, because it's very cold in space. So hello and welcome to the after movie Not Allowed in a Diner just yet. And even when we are allowed in a diner, I don't know. I'm going to be I'm going to be a little hesitant because unlike apparently 99.9% of the rest of the world, I am able to understand that viruses don't just go and disappear overnight. They don't just disappear. They don't, Jim. I hate to break it to people, but viruses don't go, you know what, 3 months was enough for me. I think I'll fuck off to the Bahamas. Viruses, they don't do that. Viruses have a nasty tendency to stick around. So everyone dancing in the streets and hanging out at restaurants and not wearing masks anymore because, you know, it's all over. I'm happy to eat my words. And do you know why? I'm happy that if in 3 months' time I'm like, I was wrong, well, that's brilliant. I was wrong. Viruses did disappear, and that's awesome. However...
Or to be fair, they might not have been as virulent or as deadly as we feared that they might be. It's possible.
As neither of us work in a hospital.
Reopening, and they were, we're going to reopen, and my first instinct was, I'm not going to go back.
No, I'm not going to do that. And Jim, between you and me, as neither of us work in a hospital, I don't know that either of us are equipped to make that call because they probably had a hell of a time.
They did. They had a hell of a time.
They had a hell of a time. But yeah, Jim and I both received, because we're AMC Stubbs members.
AMC Stubbs.
This podcast is not endorsed at all by AMC or its affiliates or anybody with any kind of stubs, like stubby arms, ticket stubs, anything like that.
You know who doesn't endorse us? Anybody with the power, weight, or inclination to endorse anything. We're not endorsed by them.
No, not at all. But we did get an email from AMC Stubbs, because they are wanting to reopen, and they're really excited about reopening because they want to show us the wonder of Moulin, apparently, according to the email. And they want to do it.
That might have been very quiet and charged me a month without me noticing.
Yeah.
Because all I got when they said, we're preparing to reopen, was the first thing I did was write down a post-it note, cancel AMC Stubbs.
Yeah, right. Because if they start charging us again, then... They can screw that, then go do one, as they say.
I really fucked it. Like I think they ended up making money out of me because I didn't see a single fucking movie the last 2 months.
Dude, they definitely didn't make money out of you because we went and saw, movies well over $20.
Because I went and saw movies, but we managed there was maybe a month where we saw 2 or 3 movies in a month, and that was a pretty good month. But other than that, I was only seeing one movie a month. We were pretty poor towards the end, though.
But we were doing the recliners, we were doing the 3D, we were doing stuff.
I regret nothing. Je ne regrette rien, mate.
Je ne regrette
rien. But, anyway, bollocks.
Peep, what is Sene not a peep, or whatever the Magritte painting is.
That's whatever you just said for you.
But no, so AMC wants me to watch Moulin while doused from head to toe in Clorox. And I'm like, what's weird is they say in the email, we're partnering with Clorox. But I don't know if that's the best solution. And I'll tell you why, Jim, is because the moment COVID happened, Clorox disappeared from our shelves, and 4 months later, still no Clorox. So I'm not really sure how reliant. And it's not like Clorox came back into the stores and then like they were taken again, like toilet paper did. Like toilet paper came back in and people bought more. That would at least be something that made sense. Clorox just disappeared, just hid. So I'm not sure that I want anyone partnering with a company that just went, sorry guys, we're out. I know you need us.
I don't know much about economics, mate, but I'm pretty sure that the people that made the disinfectant wipes did just go, you know what, clock off. I mean, I know we're really busy, but forget it. I know.
Well, I tell you what, they weren't shipping. They weren't shipping to Brooklyn, New York. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying they weren't shipping it.
They were, but then everybody bought them. It's because you can't change the supply chain.
Dude, I was literally, so I live opposite a supermarket, right?
Yeah, but it's a Brooklyn supermarket. So only sells like peanut shells and like Guatemalan oranges.
Why is that? What is that commentary?
Coffee that was ground by Lou Reed's nephew.
Guatemalan oranges.
Other than a cup of Lou Reed coffee or a Guatemalan orange, you're fucked.
Okay, well that's not true.
What are the disinfectant properties of Lou Reed's nephew's coffee?
Yeah,
that's all you're going to know, mate.
That's not true at all. That's just not true.
True.
I would go in
You're
as they
more
were
likely in Brooklyn to get a freshly knitted sweater than you are a bottle of, some Clorox.
Well, apparently. I found it easier to purchase soft shell crabs during this quarantine time, right, than I did trying to get a bleeding Clorox wipe. So AMC can go on and on and on about Clorox all that. Anyway, nobody cares anymore. This is dull. So hello,
they turned off.
Welcome to the fourth and last
final
for this year. Sleazy Spader Springtime 5. This time it's Sleazonal. Cue the theme music. Oh, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Welcome to the show. Oh, it's a Sleazy Spader Springtime. I want you all to know that if you please, there's James Spader Sleaze and it's got nowhere else to go. So loosen all your blouses, give your nose a damn good blow. 'Cause now we're coming clean, oh yeah. It's 2020 and we're in quarantine. The Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. Oh yeah. It is 2020's quarantine edition of the Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. And I have to say, unlike previous years, where if there has been a naysayer in Tut Bunch, it has been you, right down to stuff that I thought was going to be winning, like Dream Lover and White Palace. You were having none of it, mate.
Poopy. It was poopy.
You were having none of it. Whereas this time around, I have been the one who's I'm in a pit of
you and me are going to agree on Keys to Tulsa.
Yeah, I'm in a pit of spaderless despair when it comes to the movies that we've watched. We've had one semi-decent one out of the bunch.
Which one was that?
Which was the Stick Up.
Oh yeah, that was all right. I quite like the Stick Up.
And then we've had
the desert one either. No, you hated it.
Then we've had
Balls. It was terrible.
Then we've had Balls, unmitigated balls.
What was the other one?
Shaven.
Oh, fucking 2 Days in the Valley was dog shit.
Shaven, not even shaven. I'm going to go with plucked balls. That's what we've had. We've had agonizingly, painfully plucked testicles is what we've had to watch and sit through and endure. The Keys to Tulsa.
Keys to Tulsa, I think, was the worst of the bunch.
It went on.
Literally nothing in it.
Yeah,
nothing to recommend it at all.
It is so long and so bad that I swear it's taken me over 3 weeks to watch it, and it
it does play into like lockdown time.
Oh my god! I wanted every 15 minutes. I was like, oh, it's moving along now. Maybe a good hour's gone by, and I'd look at it and I'd be like, it's only been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I've got another 90 minutes to go.
Experience. I don't know. I had that too.
Oh. So it was like the nightmare that wouldn't end. It was like waking up in the middle of a nightmare and going, oh, thank God that's over, and then going back to sleep just for the nightmare to continue as if there was no break in the nightmare. That's what it was like.
At what point did you put your finger on why it was so bad? Because there was a moment when I realised why it was so terrible.
Well, sir, as always, I'm very interested in your speculative analysis.
This is bad. I mean, this is awful.
It is categorically bad. Yeah, but so was Slow Burn, so I don't really take your judgment to heart. But that's that is fair. That is fair. But don't forget our deal, because you've done all 4 spaders. Going forward, every podcast episode during quarantine going forward, and for as long as we're at home, will be your pick of movie mate. So you have a lot to live up to. However, we did get a ton of emails because people.
All right, let's do it. I can't remember how we do. Do we do the emails at the beginning or the end?
We do emails at the beginning and then comments and questions at the end, I think.
Questions at the end to get them to stick around. That's right. So you start off with them, with the people that with the low standards who have nice things to say about us.
Yeah.
So that people then stick around and are like, oh, maybe they're not as terrible as this intro makes them out to be.
Yeah.
Because you've got the nice comments.
Most of the comments are from Andy Lunn, but he is marvellous. We do love the Lunn.
He's very
reliable.
We
love the Lunn. We love the Lunn. Isn't it a lot of fun? I still haven't worked that out. It's the still not worked out Andy Lunn theme.
And what you're hearing from me is the sound of disappointed silence.
Listen, mate, I have had to be recording songs for a very interesting vinyl campaign whereby my friends will be getting vinyl singles of my music and giving money to charity at the same time. So, listen. Well,
I'm only going to give you money for a vinyl single if you do the Dylan song that I can't find anywhere.
Dude, I just released it. Like, I released it on that, that album that I did that was like odds and sods from my past.
Yeah.
It's on there. Yeah. You're talking about the one that take out the fountain, it's rubbish. Yeah. That's on there. It's called In the Morning.
And the 10-foot glowing statue of
Elvis. Luminous green in the night.
Luminous green in the night, but not in the morning. Yeah, in the morning.
I will do that song for you.
If you do that on vinyl, yes. I'll give you the money.
Right. So just go to my.
Do I have to do that as well?
You have to go to the campaign and pick the song. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So let me get them to add the song. I'll text you tomorrow when they've added the song, and then you go pick it.
Okay.
Pay the money, and then I will do the single.
Great.
Happily. For people who don't know what I'm talking about, check out Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures on social medias. I'm doing a vinyl campaign whereby you can get a unique, I might add, unique live performance of whatever song you choose, cut into authentic vinyl and mailed out to you for only $25, $5 of which... full $5 of each single goes to organizations involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. So not only are you supporting an independent Brooklyn studio and supporting an independent Brooklyn artist, but also you're giving money to a fantastic cause. So it's a threefer, really. It's a threefer, and you should be damn happy and proud to do it. The campaign ends on June 22nd, so you might not have even heard this episode by the time it ends, but... go do it. Even if you have like a day to do it, go do it, because it would be wonderful. It would be my honor to play a song for you to go towards, as I say, an indie Brooklyn studio and charity. So it's a wonderful cause. Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures on social medias. Enough of that. Let's go over to Andy Lunn's emails. When a man comes the postman, I wonder what he has for me. There's something in his big brown sack. I wonder what could it be. Well, I hope the bills it lacks and instead brings me some listener feedback, or maybe, just maybe, a big bag of crack. Oh, here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. He says, "Hi, fellas. I can't believe that Sleazy Spader Springtime is at an end already. As always, it's been incredibly good fun. I'm savoring the latest episode, and I'm currently about halfway through. John, you are currently ranting about how much you enjoyed Slow Burn. I'm not sure at the time of writing what the final outing will cover. I know Keys to Tulsa was mentioned previously, another one I'm yet to indulge in. Unless I forgot and did see it, which is not unlike me. I see it has Michael fucking Rooker in it and Joanna Going. Where she is going, it does not say. And I have to say, having watched Keys to Tulsa, I'm none the wiser, Andy. But
I think the answer is definitely nowhere.
He says, but the poster looks half decent, so you might be in luck. We weren't. Actually, I've just checked out the stills on IMDb, and I think I have seen this. Sadly, I now seem to recall that it was a turd. Good luck. Saturday just gone, I watched Crash, something I wish we had watched instead. But anyway, it had been a while, and I have to say that it does not disappoint. It's ridiculous yet stylish, with Spader on top form and with top hair. He is out-sleazed by Elias Koteas, though, which is a feat in itself. There was a Q&A with Cronenberg about the movie shown as part of the We Are the One Global Film Festival at the weekend. It's certainly worth checking out if it's still online. And we're a series behind on the Blacklist. This is him and his wife, and have just watched some now poignant scenes between Spader and Brian Dennehy. That series can be fluff, but appearances from the likes of Dennehy, Fisher Stevens, William Sadler, and Tom Noonan, to name but a few, certainly keep us coming back for more. Anyhow, all the best to you on this year's final voyage, The Lun. So there we go. That was the.
I would like to have seen Crash. It's just there's no way for me to see it.
No, we'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. Definitely,
right,
definitely. Next we had Shane Bassett write to us. Shane Bassett.
Is this the first email? Do you have like a tune for that when people write us their first email?
No, this isn't the first email from Shane Bassett. Shane Bassett is the one. Shane Bassett is the one who would. He's from Australia, and he would really, 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 really like us to do Hiding Out, starring John Cryer. So he would really. He's written to us before, and as yet,
is that Spader one?
What?
Is that Spader
it's
one?
It's not a Spader one, no. But as yet, even though he's written to us multiple times, we haven't done it yet.
What is it?
It's a movie with John Cryer in it that's sort of relatively unknown. I think it is on Prime right now, so we could technically do it.
What's it about then?
But again, there's a part of me, and you'll have to apologize, someone's house is burning down in my neighborhood. There is a... All right. Everyone knows.
What's it called again?
Crazy.
Hiding
Out with John Cryer, and there's a sick, evil, devilish part of me that, despite Shane being a wonderfully lovely chap from down under, and always very enthusiastic about the show, there is an evil, goblin, devilish part of me that likes to promise we'll do it without actually ever doing it. That may make me an awful person.
No, I think that's fine. You just do whatever you like. It's your podcast, mate. Do what you like.
But it's also John.
Why don't you get him on to talk about the movie?
It's also John Cryer, and I have so little interest in John Cryer. But anyway, Shane A. Bassett writes, just letting you know, I love Keys to Tulsa. Maybe another reason why we don't do Hiding Out. Just letting you know, I love Keys to Tulsa, actually. I only just recently bought a physical copy off eBay for my collection, as I'm a Cameron Diaz completist. Interesting. You'd have to be. Because she's... I mean, that's as mad as me owning a physical copy of Congo, because Bruce Campbell's in the first 30 seconds. Anyway.
Come on, you own Congo for that reason at some point.
No, I do own Congo. That's what I'm saying. It's as mad as me owning Congo.
I think it's mad as the thing that is the truth.
Yeah. Yes, except along with Congo, you get a bizarre talking ape, Tim Curry being mad, and Ernie Hudson, which at least is way more than what you get in Keys to Tulsa for the Cameron Diaz completist in us all. Anyway, he says, and I remember seeing Keys to Tulsa on a VHS back in the day and loving it. Around the time a heap of minuscule budget indies were hot. I might even send you a voice message after I watch it again in the next day or so in anticipation for your last James Spader episode of 2020. I can't wait. Then he says, please do Hiding Out with John Cryer sometime. Keep up the great poetry, Jim. It's refreshing, mate. Sincerely, Shane A. Bassett.
Shane A. Bassett. I feel bad
Sydney, Australia.
Because he sounds lovely.
He is lovely. No, he's lovely.
All I want to do is kick Keys to Tulsa in the bollocks until it stops existing.
Yeah, exactly. He then wrote back, just letting you know. He wrote that as two separate emails. Okay, no, he sent the same sentence again. Forget it. Never mind. I've already read that bit. There was other things. What else did we get?
I feel really bad now.
No, you should. You should feel terrible.
But takes the time to bother to read my poetry, and I'm going to shit all over a film they like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but that's the world that we live in. We got a message through the form submission, contact form submission on the
Fucking hell, it's a banner day.
It is. I'm telling you.
3 people.
4 people, I think. I know I've got another one at least in the inbox, but it could just be Shane again asking us about John Cryer. But anyway, this is from the email. There's no name on it, so this is confusing. But it's from an email that is McColk. So I don't know if that's your last name, but thank you for writing McColk. Anyway, it has 3 L's or 2 L's. I can't tell. Anyway, message. Thanks for the shout out on your recent 2 Days in the Valley episode. Who did I shout out on the 2 Days in the Valley episode? McCall. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for your shout out on your recent 2 Days in the Valley episode. I heartily enjoyed your dissection of the stick up and was weirdly glad you mentioned Spader's odd eating her face approach to kissing, as I thought it was just me who'd noticed it. But it's not just in this movie. He does it all the time. In many of the other films which your podcast has led me to. Thanks for that. Oh, this might be the wonderful lady who donated after finding the Spader podcast.
Yeah.
It could be. It could be her. It could be her. It could be her. There's just no name on this message. Right. But she said that, I think last time she had said that she had found us and had listened to the Spader podcast. So that I think that's in reference to this. Anyway, also the weird exploration of Spader's work I've been on as a result of your show has led to many of his interviews popping up in my YouTube recommendation section. Me as well, because whenever we start a Spader thing again, I always end up watching all of his interviews. Sadly, most of them are about the Blacklist, and I tried to care and then just couldn't. She says, this was the first one I watched. You've probably seen it. Sends a link to an interview. But by God, it does not disappoint in terms of the sleaze factor. Cheers for all the laughs and recommendations. You've inadvertently added a very strange but entertaining tinge to my whole lockdown experience. Well, I have to say, 50 points winging your way for the word tinge. I mean, that is... I'm so happy about that.
But that's what I wanted. I mean, I love the idea of like us talking, rubbish about James Spader.
Sure.
Because like people's lockdowns, I know my lockdown has been weird, but I've also been working really, really hard. I've got no idea what it must be like to be shut in either with like a job still, but very little to do, or not a job, or I don't know, just like I can only imagine it's a very peculiar time. So the fact that we are, giving people a giggle makes me very happy.
I couldn't agree more, and I am very grateful for everyone who has written in. There is apparently an audible message from Shane A. Bassett. I'm just looking through it now. That was sent from his iPhone. So that will be being played now. I haven't heard it, so I can't comment. But here's the message. I assume it's going to be Shane asking us to watch Hiding Out and saying how much he loves Keys to Tulsa, which is totally fine, Shane. You're a lovely guy, and we love you, and we will do Hiding Out. We promise we will do Hiding Out. But it's Jim's picks coming up. So if Jim picks it, then it's down. I'm putting it all on you, Jim. If you pick it, I will watch it. But I did make a deal that if Jim did all 4 Spader movies, he gets to pick from now on, Shane. So your Hiding Out life is in his hands. And then I believe that Andy Lund sent us Spader questions just this Wednesday. Yes, he did. That will be for the end of the show. But those are the 3 main responses we got on Sleazy Spader Springtime.
Should we start? So should we make the test out? What's going on?
That would be someone letting off fireworks on our street. Either that or someone's just used an old Tommy gun to mow down
probably Lou Reed.
A boy in a newsboy cap or something.
Yeah, that's probably Lou Reed.
This podcast brought to you by Noises in the Street.
By New York Noises.
Yeah.
So should we start shitting on the Keys to Tulsa then?
I would, but how about that for an intro? Pretty tight, wonderful, beautiful intro, I thought.
Really? Did it take like an hour?
Yeah, it took about 32 minutes.
The fucking record, mate.
So now we have 15 minutes to shit on it. Yeah.
Where do we even start?
With Keys to Tulsa, well, I want to start with the fact that I've now seen far too many of Eric Stoltz's pubes, which
what
is
the
disturbing.
fuck? No, okay, even more. Okay, and this is a really weird way to begin a sentence, and nothing that follows the beginning of the sentence could possibly be true. But even more disturbing than the sight of Eric Stoltz's pubes.
Yeah.
How can that end? But for some reason, his like weirdly hairless belly that the director is completely obsessed with. It's like his hairless chest and belly is like, oh my God, it's like, it's, you know, like the statue of David or something. He's like obsessed with how great this thing is. And it's really weird and not at all anything other than deeply off-putting.
So I think we're both going to say the same thing, but the reason why this is a massive dud is if you have to have Stoltz in it, if you have to, if it was somehow, somewhere there is a cabal of mad producers who are just like, whenever anyone says I've got a film script for you, they immediately convulse and go, Eric Stoltz, got to put Eric Stoltz in it. Now, if there is that weird little group of producers who must, for whatever godforsaken reason, have Eric Stoltz in a film, and I've still yet to figure out the appeal of Eric Stoltz at any level whatsoever, because outside of Pulp Fiction, I don't think he's good in anything. But anyway, if you must put out...
It's a long time since I saw it, though.
If you must... that's the noise which Eric Stoltz imparts from it, is that sort of... if you have to have...
That's the noise when he rubs his hand across his...
across his hairless body.
Hairless chest.
And not even... if you must have him in the film, swap the roles, surely. Like, the whole problem with Keys to Tulsa was that Spader wasn't... And I'll explain why. Because if we were watching a film where inexplicably, I might add, a posh, spoiled, arse-faced, lazy, irresponsible, feckless turd of a human went round and seemingly slept or wanted to be slept with by every woman he came across, right? If that was the movie we were watching, Spader could do that. Spader could do that in his sleep. Spader could, like, when Spader takes his shirt off, even though it's grotesque, it's kind of a pleasing grotesqueness. It's almost like a Geiger, a painting or a gargoyle or something.
Would make more sense, like the fact that he's irredeemably sleazy.
Yeah.
But Stoltz is like, I'm a really great guy. Like the weird disconnect in the middle of the movie is that he's supposed to be a really great guy, but really he's like a dull, like spineless div, right?
Yeah. I mean, they go to pains to paint everyone around him as a terrible person, but he had one job, and that was film reviewer, and he couldn't even do that. All he had to do, by the way, people listening, in Keys to Tulsa, all Eric Stoltz had to do was go see a film and review it for a local newspaper. So I'm presuming, what, a paragraph? 2 paragraphs, if that? That's all he had to do.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you here.
That's all he had to do.
A movie about a successful Tulsa movie reviewer with like a high functioning personal life who's quite a nice chap. Yeah. Now, you and I would probably quite enjoy that movie, but the audience is small.
No, right. But a movie about a guy who doesn't write film reviews when his job is to write film reviews.
Well, that's because he's lost, man. He's damaged. He's like that guy in Bright. I mean, that's what it is, right? It's supposed to be Bright Lights, Big City, but in Tulsa, but with oil and...
Right. Okay. So no lights, and small shitty city then.
Yeah, basically. But, okay, so...
No offense to anyone who may or may not live in Tulsa who is living to this right now.
Didn't you think that the real title of this movie should really be like White Privilege the movie? Like,
fuck yes!
Right, everybody in it.
The whole film is White Privilege
drugs,
movie.
Being fucking awful, just terrible people doing terrible things and strolling around with zero consequences. Yeah, none of them face any consequences.
It was also literally we picked outside of somehow smuggling Amazon Prime back to slavery days to watch this movie. We literally picked the worst time in history to be watching this film, because it is achingly awful white privilege, the movie, and I'm not saying that to be right on or woke or whatever. I'm saying it because
it explains to why it's bad, though, because there's like white privilege movies that they can be okay, they can be good, but it's bad also because of white privilege, because there's no shitting way in a million shitting years that the director of this movie was in any way ready to direct the movie. Like, he's just not ready. He's got no idea about pacing, like the way music cuts off at the end of scenes, the way things move from one thing to another. He's got no feel for how to like capture a performance on camera.
There's literally
rhythm,
a bit.
There's nothing.
There's
and it's
literally
not the writing. That's what I figured out, right? Because I was like, it must be the writing. It's so bad, it must be the writing. And I was like looking into it, because what else the fuck are you going to do? You can't watch the movie.
Well, I hated the movie so much, I refused to look it up. That's how much I hated it.
Okay, so I did, right?
Oh, great. Okay.
What is it? What is this movie? And it's written by a guy who wrote for Twin Peaks, right?
Right.
He was hired and wrote for Twin Peaks and was a producer on it as well. So he wasn't like a fly-by-night guy. Like, if he's a writer and a producer on Twin Peaks, he respected. And then you start thinking about the movie and the characters and how they talk. Like, there's something there.
Right.
But the director is a guy that used to be a page for NBC, right? So he's basically Kenneth from 30 Rock. And he's done nothing. Right. And all he's done since then is produce. So I think he can produce shit, but him and the writer produce it. Right. But he obviously got no feel, no talent, no nothing. But because white privilege, the movie, he's like, oh, I'll direct it. I'll make it. And it's like, I can't even think of how many better, more talented people there were, like, fucking just strolling by in the background.
No, there were,
There was a movie being made.
Literally,
Eric. But am I wrong?
No.
Was there anything in the movie in terms of like how it was directed that was anything other than not just bad, but just like no feel or talent at all?
Yeah, no, it was Eric Stoltz's hairless nipples could direct a better movie than this. Now, the Twin Peaks thing is interesting because okay, so that's very interesting because it's like two bad filler episodes of Twin Peaks. Of Twin Peaks slammed together, right? And then with the melodrama removed, because the whole genius of Twin Peaks is that it is played like a soap opera, like purposely played like an ironic soap opera, directed by David Lynch. And then so it has entirely the framework of like a bad Young and the Restless or whatever, one of those daytime soaps. But it has all this like weird stuff in it and curious casting and yada, yada, yada that elevates that fact, right? And it is a bit arch and a bit ironic and a bit meta. But it worked. It worked like the beans back in the day. Plus it has a good central mystery to it. This, on the other hand, has no central anything to it. It lacks heart, soul, guts, balls, and diversity in alarmingly aware quantities that it lacks.
But it's basic things, like just like you're saying, that there's supposed to be, I think, a mystery in the middle, which is like who killed a character that we don't even know and only see in flashback, and who says nothing and does nothing and is,
and is horribly referred to by a racist slur throughout the whole movie, as if there's any excuse for that whatsoever. Even characters who supposedly like her and want to support her and actually want to avenge her death still end up repeating just hate speech for the sake of repeating hate speech. Like, it's just
it was
garbage.
And there's flipping Rooker, who is like really terrible, because Rooker's either quite entertaining if he's like being evil and it gets to dial down a bit, but when he's like sweaty, he's deeply unpleasant actor. But his thing is like his arc is supposed to be, he's lost. He's like a lost little boy, and he finally gets like a role to play or something. I don't fucking know. But he's coming fresh off like beating a woman up, and is in like legal trouble for beating a woman, and he's like at the end of the movie a hero. It's so weird, and it's
a horribly misogynistic film as well, and there's also some weird thing. So there's a weird thread throughout, right? Because like you were saying earlier about Stoltzy trying to be like the good guy, even though he's not, even though he like does cocaine and hangs out with the bad sorts of people.
He's just like those wanky, like those fucking wanky writers. I mean, I say that as a wanky writer.
As a wanky writer, yeah.
But that thing of like, oh, I'm above it. I'm you know.
Well,
they hold on to this idea of themselves as being good people based on nothing other than they believe they're good people, but it's not borne out by their actions at all. They're just as, you know, rudderless and feckless as everybody around them.
Yeah.
But
there's a weird thing where, and you know, in order to, like, this is the movie that it is. In order to make Eric Stoltz even momentarily redeemable, right? Everyone else around him, when referring to the death of a stripper, is using the N-word, even when they don't need to. Even his, like, you know, Jolly Girl Friday at the newspaper is like, she's like, oh, he makes a bunch of N-word jokes all the time. And I'm like, why is this in the film? Anyway, yeah. Eric Stoltz, like, pointedly refuses to say that word. Not that it's in the dialogue. It's just very obvious in the way that his character chooses his words that he doesn't say that word. So there's that where they're like, well, that redeems him, right? And I'm like, what? The bare basis level of humanity that he, you know, refuses to refer to someone purely by a racial slur. Yeah, that makes him wonderful. But then also there's this weird thing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But there's this weird thing where Stoltz himself, not the character, but Stoltz the actor, knows full well, and this is why he'll never be Spader and why he's horribly cast in this movie, knows full well that there is like rampant misogynistic female characteristics and female nudity in the film in a way that there really has no need for. And especially with the one actress going, or whatever her name is, she was required basically throughout the movie to be topless throughout the whole film, which was just at a certain point embarrassing and upsetting. And there's this weird thing where, because Stoltz himself does some, when it comes to male nudity, like fairly bold male nudity, which, you know, especially
pubes. You mean pubes? You're saying pubes.
I mean pubes.
Stoltz pubes.
And the fact that Deborah Kara Unger is like horribly forced to like touch his penis, like on screen, which is problematic enough. But there's almost something like Stoltz the actor being like, no, I understand women. I understand how you've been like marginalized by this film. So don't you worry. I'm going to show my pubes as well. Like there's that. There was something in the scenes where like Stoltz had his was naked or had his pubes out, had his buttocks out, whatever. Where he was like, "No, ladies, don't worry, I've got you." And there was something about that just made me like withdraw and cringe and hate the film even more. Not that he says any of this, by the way. This is me purely speculating. But there was something that came from the screen where he's like, no, I know you've had to do a lot of like really egregious and embarrassing topless scenes, but how about for a brief glimpse you see my pubes?
That's the problem with having him in the lead, right? Is that he's so dull.
He's dull and earnest and awful.
So dull and earnest. That the idea that he's like morally compromised or is struggling with anything at all is like laughable. He doesn't have any kind of range to pull that off. So he just looks like an entitled dickhead, like with perfectly. He's surrounded by exits. You know what I mean? He's got so many roads that he can take, and so many places that he can go, and so many things that he can do.
He could write that movie review, get a paycheck, get his own apartment.
Yeah, right, but that's an excellent example of one of the many ways in which he'd be completely fine. And the idea that they're all trapped, like there's something in the the golf cart story, even though it's a fucking rubbish story, but I get where they're getting, right? Yeah. The idea that like actually they're meant to be together, but that's like a fucking tired trope as well. Like, she's with a really bad guy, but actually they really understand each other. It's just fucking boring. And she's boring. God, she's boring. She's boring. Spader's boring because they bury him under like an Elvis disguise. You know what I mean? They turn him into Elvis, and he's boring. How do you make Spader boring? You cover up his eyes. You put him under like a weird wig thing, and you cover up his eyes and give him a weird accent, and he's fucking boring. He's got nothing to work with. Except there was a whole... Wait. Except one moment, which I'm sure you noticed, where... And I've never seen him do it before, and he might have done it, and he just did it normally, so I didn't notice. But I've never seen a weirder or sleazier wink.
Yeah.
The one Spader... Do you mean like the one that Spader gives in this movie? It's like there's a little thread he's had to like tie onto his eye and pull it down to make his eye go down in a wink, and then let it go back up again. There
are two redeeming things about this film, and by redeeming, I'm clutching at straws. But they're both to do with Spader. One is when he actually gets the opportunity to play a little bit of a scene, which is really only in the kind of like final act. He is the only thing that lifts this film out of the mire that it's wallowing in. Secondly, those trousers that he was wearing in the third act, that was a bold and brave pleather. They were like tight-fitting pleatherette combats. So they were both tight-fitting and loose at the same time. You could totally see an outline of his cock, or at least whatever fake cock he'd put down the front of them to go, yes, ladies, I have an enormous cock.
Like a Spinal Tap cucumber.
Like a Spinal Tap wrapped up cucumber, definitely. But then they were also like baggy, like weird space pants, and they had like big pockets on them, but they were pleatherette. And I was like, only Spader could wear, and then he was wearing it with that like orange cardigan that looked like the kind of thing that was like grubby when he found it and has not been washed since. And he was wearing it like against his bare skin, which just added a whole level of sleaze to it. So like if you condensed the 10 minutes that Spader is on screen in this movie to like a small silent film that ended with the wink, then it would be watchable.
It's true that it wasn't. And I feel bad because people can love movies for all sorts of weird reasons. And I get that there were like this kind of film in the 90s where it was kind of a not exactly slice of life, but exactly this kind of thing where you'd have slightly lost drifting people, like that one with Roth, Bodies Rest in Motion. Remember that? Like that
was awful too, though. But that was
I know. I'm just saying there was a lot of movies where
wasn't Stoltz in that?
Drifting. It was like I tell you what, it's like Generation X stuff, like that book, the Douglas Coupland novel, Generation X, where it's just a bunch of people who have everything but are suffering from like a big existential dread. Like that kicked off a lot of things, and some of them are okay, and I get why kind of escaping into that world where you see people with choices and places they can go, but they're unable to take them, and they're unable to move out of the habits and the places that they built for themselves. Like that can be rewarding, and that can wake you up, and I can get why, in a kind of a skewed way, if you see it through that lens of it's that kind of movie, that there's something there, and they are just like they're trying to move it along and whatnot, but it's Stoltz. Casting Stoltz is the first nail in the coffin.
He's just an anathema.
It's basically a stake through the corpse of the undead vampire in the middle of the coffin. That's how big a fucking nail Eric Stoltz is. But
he's in Bodies Rest in Motion as well. It's interesting you picked that movie. The rotten core in the heart of Gen X is Stoltz. He's the one that puts the rest of Gen X to shame is Stoltz. And, you and I are sort of on the border of Gen X and on the border of millennial, but we're more probably...
We're more Gen X, I think.
We have more traits with Gen X than we do with millennials. But even so...
If you remember how we spent our 20s, we spent a lot of time moping around, getting nothing done, thinking...
we're Gen X.
What we were going through was terribly important, even though it was just nonsense.
But Eric, I think this is... We have cracked the case of Gen X. We have cracked our generation in this one discussion.
Gen X open, and inside we found tiny, rotten, stinky Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, naked, pubic Eric Stoltz.
Oh, it was so. There was like a close up because there's a bit in the movie where there's like a close up of his weird belly, and like Cara Unger is right next to it, and she's looking at it like, wow, I'm stunned by how irresistibly sexy this like weird hairless belly is. And it was so, it was like cognitive dissonance, like what I was experiencing watching that. It was like, how did anybody look at this, Stoltz, Unger, the director, anyone, and go, this is a scene.
Well, Deborah Cara Unger she's fine and everything, but like, she essentially plays a very similar role in almost every film that I've seen her in. But she looks like someone who had, at one point, a normal face, and then someone got, like, 2 brick hods and, like, squashed the face together. She looks like a spitting image puppet of Madonna, is what she looks like. You know what I mean? Like, where spitting image, like, would push... You'd have a normal head, but then the eyes, the nose, and the huge lips would all be wedged right in the center of them. She looks like...
Very 90s, because she's got a very... Yeah, she's very 90s, she's got a very angular face. Everything about her is angles.
Angular. She's
the movie even had that thing where... which, again, is... I think it's only in the 90s, and only, like, Gen X, like, pottering around doing bugger all. Yeah. But that thing of, like... a stripper comes on stage and does like an artistic strip to a fucking, do you know what I mean, moody, melancholy indie tune. You go, that never happened.
Never happened.
Outside of movies written by people like, oh, this is very fucking
What was hilarious was that as he showed up,
he's sitting there in the armchair, mesmerized. Going, you wouldn't get me sitting in an armchair in a strip club for love nor money. No. Nothing with upholstery. Steer clear of upholstery in a strip club.
It's true.
I want shiny plastic, and that's it.
Strip clubs should have seats like McDonald's have seats. You know what I mean? Like that kind of plastic. Like the subway has seats. Like the subway has seats, so that you could at least hope that someone hosed it down with something at the end of the night. Exactly. Even if they didn't, you could have the belief that maybe they could have.
There was something too, right?
But wait. Hang on. While we're on the strip club, it was the fact that at the beginning of the strip club scene, and obviously Spader's there because Spader probably lives there, and Stoltz comes in. There are all the kind of people on stage that you would expect in a strip club scene in a movie, right? So large, fake-breasted model types dancing on poles and da-da-da-da-da, right? All of which, depending on your taste and whatever, would at least get someone looking the stage's way. Not Stoltz. Stoltz is like, oh, I'm above this. However, get the waifish, emo chick with barely a body to speak of. And again, listen, no body shaming, no body judgments, no whatever. I'm just talking in comparison with the other strippers in the club. And based on the fact that, again, sorry, someone's just firing a blunderbuss on Washington Avenue tonight. Based on what Stoltz then does when he sees her, it does bear mentioning, right? So she comes out, again, waifish, androgynous, and whatever, which is absolutely fine. Be waifish and emo and androgynous. That's your right. But she comes out, she waifish, emo and androgynous, wearing like a spangly silver like overalls essentially, and then like slowly takes them off in a not very interesting fashion to reveal, like I say, just a fairly average androgynous body, to which Stoltz is enraptured. Like, Stoltz cannot...
Like the crappy, like, melancholy, like, my name is the music, serious, the stripper, I'm deep, or whatever.
I've got deep things.
I'm mesmerised. And then proceeds to treat her like shit and take her for granted the rest of the movie.
The whole movie, he treats her so bad.
But then, this thing, but you know what else is weird about this movie? It's based on a book. Like, somebody wrote a book. And these things happened in a book.
Yeah.
Now, did they like cut out an alien subplot? Is this all happening while in the middle of it there's like an alien bounty hunter?
Did we miss, like, you know when people say, oh, I'm too old to do this now, right? I can't make a go. And people go, oh, no, you know, so-and-so had their best success at 50 or whatever. I think it's not so much to do with our age. I think we missed a whole decade where apparently we could have just been writing wank and it would have got made. You know what I mean? We could have just written Eric Stoltz wafts into a gas station wearing a loose fucking jacket, smoking an endless cigarette and talking about existentialism, and people would have apparently thrown money at us.
But I think the truth of that is, right? Because I think it's an interesting point. It's something that I used to think
we missed
about
our window.
But I think I think about it a lot, especially with like that, like James Patterson, right, is drowning in money.
Yeah.
And I've read one of his books, and it's absolutely, comfortably, far and away, the worst thing I've ever read in my life. Just appalling, and so incredibly like cliched and awful and just abysmal. Just no good at all. And yeah, people fucking love it.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I could speculate that people fucking love it because it's, you know, basic and cliche and it just does what it's supposed to do. And
I found out recently on Twitter that Kevin James has fans. So underestimate nothing in this world anymore.
Right.
That's
So
all I'm saying.
my point is, if you're honest, right? So man who wrote the book, if you're honest and you give an honest account of your experiences, then let's say this book, you know, wasn't adapted by a terrible director, then maybe there is something in like Gen X, ennui, and like a slice of life in a weird town that's like got oil boom, so it's got a lot of money, but it's also got a lot of poverty, and it's got a lot of like that thing of people can, you know, you see it a lot in New York with the children of rich people who are bored in an incredibly self-destructive way. It's like a very weird, particularly American, that I've experienced thing of people who are self-destructively bored, even though they have everything. It's like a very weird ennui. And that's what this book is basically, or the film is supposed to be about, right? They're all rich. They've all got whatever they want.
Like the Less Than Zero thing.
And self-destruction.
Like Less Than Zero, but in Tulsa. Less Than
in Tulsa. And that's presumably why they got Spader involved. And what's his face? Stoltz is clearly supposed to be McCarthy. But and it's a similar kind of thing. Like McCarthy's not exactly like the narrator of Less Than Zero is hardly a flipping angel, but it's true, and so people respond to that. And the problem with the direction of this, like we might still not like it because of the white privilege and because it's like Stoltz's weird belly and pubes, but if someone who directed it knew how to direct, then maybe it might be a different film. But that's why I think that the blame lies squarely at the door of the guy who directed it, because it's put together in a way that shows absolutely no feel for how to make a film. Like no talent. He knows, press this button, the camera goes on. Yeah. Point like
he knows that barely.
All the things you can like read through a book and figure out. He's got. But any like notion of talent that should take you from being somebody who like makes a short film and then you get a chance to make a movie like that, you know, like the thing that we imagine is what happens when you go from being somebody who hasn't made a movie to making a movie, right? That journey you have to take.
Yeah.
And he just went from being a guy that read a book and now he's making a movie. And that's the toxic white privilege in the middle of this film that tanks it and turns it into nothing more than a ginger pubes showcase.
And coming up next week on NBC, Ginger Pubes Showcase, a new game show
hosted by Eric Stoltz.
No, the
sponsored by Ginger Pubes Hair Dye.
Stoltz. No, but the weird thing is, and I want to bring back the golf. First of all, the fact that this movie hinges on a golf metaphor should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Because do you know who, like, in all the jobs in, factories and coal mines and retail and hospitals and cleaning, custodial work and, whatever it is, right? All the horrible jobs that, like, most people have to take at one time or another. Do you know what is at the very, very top, pinnacle, cushy end of shitty jobs? People working on golf courses. Like, I get it. You have to deal with a lot of toffs who are, like, throwing you a few dollars to carry a heavy bag in hot sun while they talk about fucking privileged corporate bollocks. I get it. That sounds awful, mate. I mean, that sounds terrible. But it's not, fucking cleaning up kids' puke or, wrapping wounds or digging mines.
You're right, because
or even working a register in Best Buy. It's not even as bad as that.
I agree. And you're right, it shows a lack of, and again, for all I know, the book is based on,
my life at a golf course.
My best friend's a golf man. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't give a fucking shit. Because I'm never going to fucking read it or anything that this bloke's written. But presumably, you could come, like, the idea is that he's a bit of rough for Deborah Kara Unger, and it's really about Stoltz, Mr. like Sweaty Rooker, and Unger, and they're like the rich, bored Gen Xers who are like trapped in their own, like suffocating ennui, basically. And Spader's supposed to be this like bit of rough that. Like, it's the only true feeling she's ever had, the only place that she's... And also, like, how is their baby alive? Because they don't look at it or touch it or feed it or do anything for the whole movie.
There's three things I've got to mention before we get out of the endless attack loop that is the review of this film. No.
I'm especially sorry to the man that read my poetry on Australia, because I'm sure you're a lovely bloke. And I get why that you have emotional and sentimental attachments to things that remind you of a place and a time when things seemed more alive, and you know what I mean?
I get it.
You didn't have anything really going on, and things were kind of boring and suffocating. That watching a movie like this gave that feeling and that time in your life meaning and allowed you to feel like there was some.
I've forgotten it now. I knew I'd forget it. I knew I'd forget one of the three things.
I'm sorry.
And now I've forgotten one of the three because you were constantly trying to suck up to Shane Bassett, who read your poetry.
I'm trying to be empathetic.
Listen, we didn't like the film. He likes the film. All power to him, and much love to him. And I hope he continues to support your poetry genuinely and from the bottom of my heart. But fuck this movie in a box. Anyway, fuck this movie in a box covered in weirdly ginger pubes. But a couple of things, and because I've forgotten the third thing, but two things. First of all, the golf story. I want to go back to this very quickly. The basis of the golf story is this, right? That, like, everyone grew up together. All of these people grew up together. But Spader is, like, less than for whatever reason. And is a little bit of rough, even though he's also hugely white privileged. He was working at a golf course one summer. Boo-hoo him. He was driving. It was weirdly like some kind of tractor, which again is one of those things where I'm like, make it a golf cart. Just make it a golf cart. People don't drive weird things that are kind of like tractors. Like, it's either a tractor or a golf cart. These aren't like weird concepts to people. You don't have to make the golf cart mysterious. That's weird. But the story he tells is that he's down the end of the driving range and people just start like hitting golf balls at him. Or again, like if you're in a tractor or a golf cart or a weird hover buggy, I don't know, drive out of the way of the golf balls.
No, he's in one of those cagey things.
Whatever.
They drive around picking up the balls.
Right, all right. They start hitting the balls at him and laughing, right? Which, yes, that makes them awful, white, horrible people. But again,
it is the world's dullest origin story.
You're on a golf course. Everyone at a golf course is the worst of humanity. If you stepped foot on a golf course, That's it. Hand in your card to any kind of moral superiority or decency or humanity because you're on a golf course, the worst exhibit of any kind of privilege.
I've been on a golf course. I'm not sure that stands up.
No, golf courses are the worst. If you're on a golf course or work on Wall Street as a trader, either one, you're the scum and villainy of the earth, and you should be defiled for all time by. But
I've been on a golf course.
But
you're saying it's about me. You're saying I should be defiled for all time.
You've been on a golf course, but you're not.
What's point number two?
No. They were hitting balls at him, right? And
you got through point number one.
Hang on a second. And she looks at him, right, and doesn't laugh. Everyone else is laughing, and she looks at him and doesn't laugh, right? And that's their big connection, right? And the whole point of the movie from then on is them trying to fuck over another white guy, right? And it's this whole idea of like, well, there'll be money in it because we'll blackmail him, but really we're doing it for the moral superiority of the fact that they all laughed at me or some bollocks, right? But the only thing that separates the incredibly, horribly privileged white guy that everyone is apparently after and all the other horribly white privileged people in the movie is that this guy killed someone that we know of in front of someone else. Rooker has definitely been horribly violent. Spader is definitely like dealing drugs and fucking up other people's lives. And Stoltz has, a weird belly. They're all culpable, right? They're all culpable. So to suddenly have this like weird division between, oh, woe is me, someone hit a golf ball at me, and this guy's the worst guy on the planet because he's white and privileged. It's like, you're all white and privileged. That's awful. The second point is there is a whole section of this movie where I'm like, wait, who's married to who? Who's whose sister? Who is whose friend? Who is what? Where are they going? Why? What? There was a whole bit. Was Deborah Kara Unger Michael Rooker's sister?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But like, for the longest time, I was like, wait, is she married to James Spader? Because that wasn't made clear either. But apparently they were married. And then they just kept using people's names. And I'm like, am I meant to know who these people are? It was like, well, Jeff said to Ronnie, who said to Basil, who went over to Gretchen's house. And I'm like, what? I don't know who any of these people are. Then there was a whole thing. James Coburn's in this movie for like 2 scenes, right? There's this whole scene where James Coburn waxes rhapsodic about working behind a bar. Then there's this discourse between him and Stoltz, and I'm like, wait, are we meant to understand why these two people have a relationship or what? Then towards the end, he reveals he could be his dad, and I'm like, what is going on? Like the whole... I was so lost by all of it. And then I'm like, wait, is it his son who killed the stripper in the hotel? Like, is that the revelation? Like, I'm so confused. Then there was something about a tattooed guy, and
yes,
I'm like,
it was his son, because the whole like dun dun dun, which could not have been less dun dun dun. It was like barely tap tap tap. Revelation was that Spader goes, it's a rich guy that you know. In fact, I think you had a thing with his sister, kind of a thing, and Spader's like, oh, it's fucking Rooker. But then it turns out to be like...
Stoltz says it's Rooker.
Stoltz says it's Rooker. And him leaving the stripper at Rooker, like knowing what he knows and behaving like he does, to go off and have lunch with his mum so he can like picture the can you lend me some more money idea. It's like, that's it. I'm out. The Stoltz thing, I'm out. Leaving the hooker, they'd be like, oh my God, special connection. But could you stay here in the house of the murderer, who you are the only witness to his murder, and he will recognize you. But he probably won't come back, but I have to go and have lunch with my mum because I need to borrow some money. It's like, okay, you are not... And I get that in the book, that probably comes across more, but if you're making a movie where Stoltz is supposed to be cool, you tanked it there. That is a point in the movie where you tank that idea.
Right, but then... Right, so, I mean, I don't really understand any of it, but like, why is Deborah Kara Unger like mad at Rooker? Like, I thought Rooker was her ex-husband, and who was rich, and she'd left Rooker to be with Spader, who wasn't rich, and that was this whole like conundrum. But then it turned out they were brother and sister. So there was a point in this movie where I'm like, was Deborah Kara Unger married to her brother, who was Michael Rooker? Like, there was a whole thing there where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Because if Rooker has all this money, then surely, like, Kara Unger would have some money. Because Rooker doesn't have... It's not like Rooker is, like, the head of a Fortune 500 company or even runs an oil rig. He just seems to drive around in a sports car in a series of horrible shirts firing guns in the air. So I'm like, well, I mean, if...
Sounds like an oil baron to me. No, you make it. But the other thing I like too is the way that Spader and Unger live in like the world's nicest dump. Because it's clearly supposed to be like, they're on the wrong side of the tracks here. Look at this place. And it's like, it's really lovely. Like white walls, billowing white curtains, comfortable living room. It's like the set designer really fucked up here.
But
because they're clearly supposed to be living in squalor.
One
and it's
point
like the
Stoltz
nicest
says
middle-class squalor I've ever seen.
One point Stoltz says, you two better go back to my place. And then I was like, wait, do they live at Stoltz's house? Like, where does Stoltz live? Like, then there was the scene at the beginning.
Stoltz lives in a farmhouse because there's a point where he drives away and the cow gets spooked. And he refers to because the Cameron Diaz scene.
Yeah, she drives up at the beginning.
Wait, was this movie? Is this pre-mask or post-mask?
Post-mask.
Post-mask?
This movie
is... Because I remember Cameron Diaz has been quite good in The Mask. She is... Like,
this movie, dude, is post She's the One and post, I think, A Life Less Ordinary. I'm going to look it up.
Fuck off.
I'm not even kidding. I think it's post, like, all the movies we think of her, like... this is 97. She'd already done a whole bunch. I'm going to read out what she had done prior to this movie.
Fuck off. No way.
It's true. She'd done The Mask, The Last Supper, She's the One... Feeling Minnesota, which I seem to remember was like a fairly big rental, and then she did Keys to Tulsa. Then she did My Best Friend's Wedding and A Life Less Ordinary. But like, also it says that she's the blonde TV reporter in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Is that true, or did I forget that?
I don't know.
But
all I know is
She's the One was a fairly big movie, right? Jennifer Aniston and.
Yeah, I mean, it was big-ish. It was a kind of an indie thing. And yeah, she was in it. I mean, she was a big role in it.
I mean, so this is 1 year between... But this is 1 year before There's Something About Mary and Very Bad Things. And the same year as My Best Friend's Wedding and A Life Less Ordinary.
Well, she turned it around fast.
Very
because
quickly.
Her acting skills are... Well, I was watching it. Initially, I thought this is her first movie, and how did she ever get work in this town after this role? And instead, it's halfway through her career. Again,
no. It's 3 years into her career.
This actually speaks to my. Sorry, it's like the world's largest truck outside. This actually speaks.
It's a tractor type thing. It's a tractor type thing. You have to hit golf balls.
It's golf balls bouncing off it. I'm on the Upper East Side. This speaks to my thing because she's clearly at this point a talented actress, and they've got her in for this scene for whatever reason, and she's got an accent. It's not great. Like admitted, dialogue's not great, scene's not great, but there's something to work with there, and she's obviously got chops. Like I've seen her in other stuff that she filmed that year, in which she's not bad. She's terrible in this because of the direction. The direction is nowhere to be found. Everybody's got. It's like. You know, you get the thing when people act and there's like, they're turned up to 11. Like whatever they're doing is turned up to 11. And you need like a director to go down a bit. Like this is too theatrical. This is too over the top. And this is like, no one is directing anything here. He's just like, yeah, that's great. No, that's bad. Just roll it again and say, do it a little less and she'd be fine. But it's like a bad take. Her whole performance is a bad take. Not bad acting, just a bad take.
But again, there's no point because like there was even a bit at the very beginning where they pull up to the house, which is, as far as I can tell, a fairly palatial farmhouse, like big-ish, and she goes, "I thought you were rich," and I'm looking at it, I'm going, "Listen, love, I wouldn't sniff at that. Like I would happily live there. Like that's a decent size. I don't know what you're talking about there." Because that's a decent sized house. That's a decent sized house for 4 people. That's a decent sized house. This is also, not like.
Can I ask one other question? Where's Stoltz been? All anybody says in this movie is, he just got back. And all I can think was, from where?
Yeah,
where's he been?
What's he done?
He's got no money. He's done nothing.
Where's he been? What's he doing? How is he constantly existing? How's he paying to put gas in that sports car that he drives around? And why can't he write? Why can't he write?
He just got back. Oh, you're back in town? You're back in town, are you, Eric? You only just got back, didn't you? What? Why does everyone keep saying this? Where's he been? Why do we care?
And why can't he just write a fucking movie review? The whole movie should have been
that frustrating thing.
Not only that, but at the end of it, the guy that they were going to blackmail, right, dies. And I'm spoiling the end because please, whatever you do, for the love of a God that I do not believe in, but I'm really grasping at my last hope.
For the love of a God, never allowed this movie to be made.
Never watch this movie, ever. But at the end of it, the guy who they've all been trying to blackmail to get money is shot. Therefore, there's no money for them. No money for them, right? Eric Stoltz comes up with a... Also, there's this whole thing about Spader has a film role that he thinks is the film role of the guy killing the stripper in the hotel, but it isn't. It's horrible photographs of Stoltz's pubes. And but he doesn't know that, and we're meant to be like, oh, I hope Stoltz gets that film away from him, like anybody cares.
Otherwise, Spader will be straight down the development store. You go, what is this? What is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, when's that revelation going to happen? Like, oh yeah, we'll have this revelation for you in about a week. Is that all right? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Stoltz's like, oh my God, don't develop that film at a 48-hour film lab, or I'll only have 48 hours to get out of town. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Right.
It's not a fucking. Those aren't stakes. Where do you think they are?
No, they're not stakes. But here, right? So, and Rooker then goes, what went on? Even though Rooker knows enough to give film to Spader of the. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's not go too deep into it. But anyway, they kill the dude, right? The dude's dead. Stoltz comes up with a way to at least like wrap a tiny bow on it and get the guy exposed for like the horrible murder that he was. In like the least
imaginative, like date-like soap opera.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, solves the issue that he needs to solve in order to get him his name smeared in the mud. So he's killed, but his name gets smeared in the mud, and by extension, his rich dad, who I think is James Coburn, not quite sure because never established or explained at any point whatsoever. That James Coburn's name and family name and standing in the town and whatever would also be mud. And therefore they would have at least achieved their, get the rich whitey, even though they're all rich whiteys, goal of what Spader was talking about with the whole fucking golf cart thing, right? That's fine. I'll go with that. I'll get that. Just fucking end the movie. Then there's a scene, a really bad one, by the way, of Stoltz with the Joanne going or whatever her name is on a beach, right? Which isn't. It literally looks like it was filmed just off the Pacific Coast Highway, but on what's meant to be like an exotic beach, and they've been driving around with like a camper van and stuff. And I'm like, wait, is this meant to imply that Stoltz got money? And if so, where from? Because the guy they were going to blackmail is dead, and their whole plan was to drag their name through the courts, which they did, but there's no money for anybody. So, like, when he says at the end, like, send money, haha, only kidding, did he finally write that film review and get a paycheck? Is that what happened?
No, because there's another thing too. He doesn't even learn anything, because at the end they did the thing. He goes, I started to write about my experience. You go, oh, is that what it is? A story? But then I stopped. You go, oh, great. Well, okay. As long as it did nothing, changed nothing.
Also, he's drinking
into bed with the next like stripper that dances to like emo bollocks in a fucking.
He's drinking a margarita that looks like the green goop from Reanimator. I thought if he suddenly turns into a super strong zombie and goes running around a hospital, this might have a scene in it.
Yeah, at least then Keys to Tulsa too. Do you know what I mean?
Reanimator.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was Keys to Tulsa. It is unmitigated bollocks from start to finish. Do not watch the film, and very, 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 very much fuck everybody in the film and who they are portraying, which is sort of a lazy elite that all need to go fuck off.
I do wonder whether it is one of those things that occasionally, like obviously things age badly, right? But this is one of the weird things where it's an attitude to what is interesting that has aged badly. You know, that that the struggles that they go through, the idea that you can have everything. And it's not as if, by the way, that it's not something that we ourselves have experienced in our lives, that patterns of behavior and you know, mental health or whatever lead you, despite privilege and, you know, lots of paths open to you. Like, it's not as if you had a lot harder than I did, that's for sure, in terms of like things that were opportunities that you had.
I've had it hard, but I've had it hard in comparison to other, you know, middle to upper middle class wealthy white people.
There were roads open to us, there were chances to take, but we found ourselves feeling very real melancholy, do you know what I mean, in our 20s. And that's what these films are about.
I'm readily aware that I have had 150 million chances based on very little other than, you know, the fact that I'm a middle class white guy. I mean, totally. And I'm not even saying that now because I'm suddenly woke. Like, I've always had, you always have that feeling in you, but there's also a point, as long as you're not the characters in this movie, all of whom are awful, as long as you are true to yourself and true to your surroundings and understand, yes, where you came from and understand why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, but also you can't turn around to someone and be like, you can't be upset about this because, look, you know, you have a roof over your head. Like, I'm allowed to be upset about that.
No, I agree. But I think the point I'm making here is rather the idea that kind of melancholy is artistically interesting, which it's not.
No.
Years later. Now, I'm not saying that in another 50 years, when people, like, in the same way that, like, Jane Austen novels or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, there's lots of, like, you know, people who are doing just fine having melancholy. Like, that's totally cool. But it does seem in this movie in particular to be in this, thrown into, like, sharp relief as to how much they have and how little they do and how boring and uninteresting their melancholy is. Yeah. Because it feels like totally unearned, and that they just do whatever they want, and they have no what's the word? No self-examination. Right?
Yeah, no self-awareness.
The examined life, right? You're supposed to live the examined life, and none of them examine their own lives beyond a kind of a surface, like every now and then that's why I think, like, maybe there's something in the book, because there's moments when they sort of catch out the corner of their eye who it is they are and what it is they do, and they keep doing it. And again, it's not like unrealistic. It's just, you know, like you're saying about, like, there's worse jobs than the golf cart guy, right? And there are, and maybe there should be films about those people, but I don't think there should be films about the golf cart guy. I'm not saying that there's a guy out there right now driving golf carts, probably getting balls hit at him, and he's feeling things, right? Rich men laughing at him, like, that's a thing. But I don't need a film made about it.
I don't care about it.
Other things there's so many things going on, but the only reason that is a thing and that is a story that is told is that the guy that experiences that thing lives a life where he is able to go on a path where he has the ability to write, right? He's able to take time off or in his free time or whatever, write a book about it. There's another guy who's able to make a film and raise the cash despite having no talent at filmmaking at all. So this story gets told about Golf Cart Man because the people that identify with that story and that need to tell that story are in the privileged position of doing it. But they shouldn't.
No.
It's not an interesting fucking story.
No, it's not. It's awful. It's terrible, and I was going to say something, and then it's awful. No, it's I was going to say something, and then I totally lost my thread again.
Well, let's do London then. Let's do London. I think we've. I think bollocks have been kicked flat.
That was my point. So, that's why the only way to make this movie, if it had to be made in the first place, like I say, if there's a bunch of producers around who are just whatever, is cast Spader as the lead role. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at Less Than Zero, if you look at Pretty in Pink, if you look at even Sex, Lies and Videotapes, which is very sort of navel-gazing, ennui bollocks as well, you look at any of his roles, the thing that Spader excels at is showing you a character that in real life you would avoid like the fucking plague, and in movies you cannot take your eyes off. And the central performance in this movie needed to be someone like that. And every time Stoltz and Spader were on screen, even though, like I said, you cannot understand much more than what I understood in slow burn that Spader was saying, because he's hampered by a shitty accent and a bunch of crap on his face. So it's very difficult to kind of understand what he's saying. Also, like, the audio mixing in the movie is terrible and whatever. But, like, so although you never get to quite relish the dialogue, he is at least by far, by 100 points, the most interesting thing in the film in terms of a performance. And I needed that energy to carry me through the movie. Instead, what I watched this movie in like 3 parts. And even though watching it in 3 parts, in each of those parts, which were about 45 minutes long apart, because it's almost 2 hours, this movie, and it barely has enough plot in it to warrant a 5-minute, advert at the beginning of some dodgy Danish porn. But the every 40 minutes or so, like I say, felt like, I'd watched 17 episodes of the worst show on television. And every time after 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this must be almost over. I had 30, 40, 50 more minutes to go. And it never ended. And even when it ended, I was like, but he doesn't have any money. There was no money to be had. Like, even the ending doesn't make any sense. And what's hilarious is on IMDb, some of the reviews say, when I first watched the movie, I didn't quite get it, and I didn't quite like it. But I went back and watched it a second time, and I started to realize what they were trying to get at. But the third time I watched it, I was like, you watched this movie 3 times? I want to find out whoever that was who wrote the review where they watched the movie 3 times. I want to go around to their house and make sure they can never watch movies again by having their eyeballs removed.
No, you should go around there with another film. It's like, clearly they've it's like a one-horse... Remember those, like, video stores?
Dude, I should go around with my sixth form college short film that I made and be like, if you like perpetually smoking, privileged white, navel-gazing twats, I got 2 or 3 short films for you.
I tell you what, it's like that thing where, again, which is... Like, there are parts of the movie that I was a bit nostalgic for. Like, I love the things like, putting on a CD and it was sexy. It's like it was so clunky and plasticky and shit. There's like nothing, like putting on an old record or something. There's something to that, but putting in like a crappy CD into a crappy CD player, it's like so not cool or sexy. And then like I don't know, smoking indoors and anyway. But like you could see how Keys to Tulsa was like on the bottom shelf of one of those like corner shop video things where you go in there like in Zippin and just be the same movies every week. And yes, you'd have like occasionally there'd be like a new one come in, but you know what I mean? There'd just be like those same films in that one shelf thing. And Keys to Tulsa would be on there, and that's why you'd watch it 3 times because you go, well, I guess it's Keys to Tulsa.
Keys to Tulsa would be the movie.
Is his name Keys? Because I know his name was Keys. But didn't they sometimes call him Keys?
No.
Are you sure? I'm sure his nickname in the movie was Keys. I was like, is that why the film is called Keys to Tulsa? Because his name...
It wasn't. His name wasn't Keys. His name was like something ridiculously bad. Keith,
but I'm sure his nickname, they kept calling him Keys.
No, dude. No, Keith was Michael Rooker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure Michael Rooker's nickname was Keys.
Eric Stoltz
I'm telling you.
His name was Keith.
I think they called him Keys. I was always with him. I was thinking, what is assuming that they are calling him Keys? Why is it Keys to Tulsa? Like, you know what I mean? Keys in Tulsa. I get it because he's Keys and he's in Tulsa. Why Keys to?
He wasn't Keys. And Eric Stoltz's name was Richter. And
what the fuck is that?
All I kept thinking.
82% like this movie on fucking. What is wrong with the world?
82% like this movie on what?
On Rotten Tomatoes on Google.
No, they didn't.
They did. It's right here. 82% like this movie. Thumbs down. I haven't changed the percentage. It's still 82%. I thought it might be like such a tiny, group of people. I want to know what Michael Rooker's name is because I could have sworn his name was Keys. Because it was like, what a weird. It
wasn't. It was
Keys. Is it Tulsa? Keys to Tulsa. Sorry.
Stop saying keys to... While we're all saying keys to Tulsa.
I'll never know. And Mary Tyler Moore's in it as well. It's so weird. Right, let's get to it, because I've got to go, because I'm fucking late. Let's get to Lung's questions.
What was funny was, because he was called Richter and everyone kept calling him Richter, is I kept expecting Arnold Schwarzenegger from Total Recall to be like, welcome to the party, Richter. Like, or whatever he says in Total Recall.
But yeah, that would have been fine.
Also, Richter. Like who writes that down as that's the name of my leading guy? Everyone's saying Richter. Like, weirdly Germanic. His last name's Boudreaux. Like also, if his last name's Boudreaux, set it in Louisiana. Don't set it in fucking Oklahoma. Like, none of that makes any sense. Anyway, Spader questions, and then the Sleazatorium, and then we bid farewell adieu to one more year of Sleazy Spader Springtime. And I fear that as we go on with each passing year, the pickings are going to become
we can still do Crash.
Slim.
What did we skip over? We didn't do Crash, which I did want to do.
We haven't done Secretary because my theory... The reason why I always said I would never do Crash or Secretary during this season was that it was too obviously sleazy. But it may just have to come down to it because there are very few good films left of Spaders.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Okay, so Andy Lund says, good evening, gents. Your questions for the final round of Sleazy Spader Springtime 2020. It's incredibly likely that Spader has a butler. What are his or her main duties?
Okay, that's true. Spader is bound to have a butler.
I think we've answered this question before. Not that I mind Andy asking it again, but...
What would Spader's butler's duties be? Probably to tell Spader where he is when he wakes up. Like whenever Spader wakes up,
yeah,
the butler needs to be there.
We have had this conversation before because we talked about him waking up in a bull pit full of semen or something on a life raft, and his butler saying something to him or whatever. I think we've had this conversation before.
You and me? I don't remember.
No, we have. Yeah, I'm almost certain of it.
I do get taken by flights of sleazy whimsy when we talk about Spader.
I think obviously his butler has seen the breadth and depth of humanity.
Would it be like one of those architects from like ancient Greece where like he's had his eyes put out? Do you know what I mean? Like one of those kind of like straggly, one of those characters that like has like the straggly hair and like the scarred over eyes, and he's like, "I warn you." Do you know what I mean? When he comes to Spader's house, like, "Come in, but abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Or whatever.
Either that, or Spader goes through butlers really, really quickly because they all do. Have you seen Cigarette Burns, the John Carpenter short film for Mars of Horror? They all do, once they've spent more than a day in Spader's presence, they all do what Udo Kier does at the end of that movie, and they've all fed their guts through a film camera. Like, they get so horrified by what they've seen that they have to feed their guts through like either a camera or like one of those old drying machines with the two spindles that you put like wet clothes through. They like wring them out like a wringing machine. They probably
there's like a huge like warehouse sized room.
Yeah,
Spader's estate, and when he shows people around, he like opens the door and there's like a whole bunch of like the milkmen in the Python sketch.
Yes,
right, from varying ages, and they're all going like, tearing all their hair out, ripping out their own eyes, like an Event Horizon kind of, like total madness.
In the room, there are lots of milkmen.
These are my butlers.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, these are my butlers. And like ripping, like across the Event Horizon and the Monty Python Milkman. That's
my favorite.
Like that in Spader's house, and it's populated by his butlers because, as you say, the things they've seen.
Yeah, I always remember like those little bits in Python where Palin was like, "There is a room full of milkmen, some of whom are very old. And then it like ends. And I think it then blends through into the guy who writes the funniest joke in the world and dies laughing.
Yeah, that's something really different, right? That's
yeah. But yes, I also think maybe does he have a female? Like, is all of his staff female? Maybe, or is that just too much?
No,
for him
I think
to
he needs like a break from that. I think he needs someone to bring him like in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Like a glass of orange juice,
an Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah, squeezed by Lou Reed's nephew.
I don't know why that's so funny. That's amazing. What in particular is it that draws Spades and Stoltzy to each other? Because we already know they're good friends in real life. I think it's because when they're both naked, it's a horrific experience. And I mean this, like, because in the few Spader films, or a lot of Spader films where he's like naked or having sex, he has to overcome the fact that he is a freckly, pasty, fairly hairless white dude with his just sheer, like, sleaze and amount of sex appeal. Because both of them are deeply odd looking in the body department. I mean, you know, facially, Stoltz looks like a Michael J. Fox who's been stretched out on a rack, beaten with a stick, and then given some ginger hair. But, like, in the body thing, if they both stood next to each other shirtless, it would be like looking into the gates of damnation.
Yeah, I don't know what would draw them together. Only that they're both clearly of a similar age. They've obviously taken a similar path in their life.
I've got the answer.
Similar school, similar upbringing, similar ambitions. But they both, like, personality, they seem like Stoltz doesn't seem to want to affect anything, right, in his acting. He doesn't. He just wants to. He's like possibilities die around
Stoltz. He's like a possibility vacuum.
Whereas Spader is exactly the opposite.
Infinite.
Like, literally anything.
Infinite.
If you get close enough to Spader, literally anything could happen.
Well, this was my theory. So you kind of went scientific with it and broad with it. I'm going to bring it back down again. I don't know if it's that they're friends. I think Spader uses Stoltz as a sort of towelette. And let me explain. If Spader is overflowing with sleaze, like an unchecked Spader is like a rampant hormonal, pheromonal, sweaty mass. By keeping Stoltz around him, Stoltz like absorbs like a towelette some of that so that Spader can stay relatively, you know, as even keel as Spader is ever going to be.
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually. No, I see what you're saying. You're saying
Stoltz is like the sleaze vacuum.
You have to have both.
Yes. The yin and the yang.
If Eric Stoltz was to die, right?
Yes.
Then the world would collapse into
Spader's
anarchy.
Yeah.
Right?
Into Spader's blubber. And the world would collapse into Spader's blubber.
Right, and if Spader was to die, the world would turn into like a grey, hopeless, like, do you know what I mean, Brazil-like future.
Yeah.
Like where there are no dreams. So you have to have them both. They have to both die at the same time, or the world is doomed.
Just the floppy, foppish hair of inevitability of Stoltz's. So that's why. Okay, and then this is a wonderful last question of the season. Okay. I'm sure that Spader has an extensive handkerchief collection. Just that sentence alone. I want to end the show on that. Your thoughts on what might be his prized possessions and why?
Well, to be fair, I actually think we talked about this too, because I think we talked about how he in what I think in the Sleazotorium, he's got the handkerchief from a movie with like somebody's sweat on it. Sure, that's like one of the things that he kept, and I think we might even have postulated that he has some kind of a collection of people's sweat. So I definitely think he has a handkerchief collection for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what his.
Does he go for the silk or does he go for the cotton? Because silk epitomizes the look of sleaze.
He seems like a silk guy to me because it's impractical but sleazy.
Right, but it doesn't help to mop up any fluids, whereas a cotton handkerchief has more absorbent.
I don't think that's the thing. I don't think Spader wants fluids mopping up. I think he wants them moved around. Rearranged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wants to do that thing where you wipe something with like a chamois or a silk handkerchief or something, and instead of it like picking the thing up or absorbing the thing, it just kind of like moves it around some more, and you kind of look at it and go, "Oh, that didn't work," like that kind of inevitability of fluids.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I don't know what his prized handkerchiefs would be.
No,
I would guess.
I do know what he's put in the Sleazotorium, though.
Okay. You know what? I'd like to know because I don't know if I figured it out.
Definitely know. It's the weirdest scene in the whole film. It's in it for no reason. Stoltzy goes over to Spader's home without telling Spader he's there for no reason. Spader shows up and like wrestles him to the ground, and then they go in and just start talking as if they didn't just wrestle each other to the ground, even though Stoltzy could have just knocked on the door. Anyway, doesn't matter. Carry on. Deborah Kara Unger then just comes in with groceries, right? And there's like
so weird, that scene,
right? So then there's like the noise of a baby in the background, and out of nowhere, Deborah Kara Unger is unpacking the groceries, and what is meant to be ice cream but looks like moldy jism goes flying literally like a whale has ejaculated on her. Not like, oh, there's a bit of ice cream on me, but like a huge wave.
And in a way that could never happen in the way that the scene
never happened. Like she even had to fumble to make whatever they'd set up so that the sploosh would go up. She even like had to clumsily fumble to make the it was almost like she put her hands in the bag and got two handfuls of stuff and went,
it was almost like
I've spilt it on me, even though
a scene in a farce where someone has to do that.
Yeah.
And they like do oh no, and they do a really poor job of it. It was another example of like catastrophically terrible directing. But yes, carry on.
So why is this in this movie, you ask? Spader picking up whatever's to hand, which appears to be a baby's bib, like a flannelette baby's bib, starts to mop her shoulders, neck, and breasts down with the bib.
But again, like a silk handkerchief, just moving the ice cream around. He's taking none of it off.
That is in the Sleazotorium.
I'm not even going to argue with that because I hadn't thought of it, and it is completely perfect.
Yeah.
The mopped up like ice cream from Deborah Kara Unger's boobs on a baby's bib. That's peak Sleazotorium. It doesn't get any better than that because it's so weird.
Yeah,
and you can tell like that part is like, what if it, because the director's like, ice cream comedy moment, whatever, and Spade's like, what if it went on her boobs, and what if I rubbed it off with this baby's bib? And then for some reason I now feel deeply uncomfortable. You're right. I'm not going to argue, mate, because that's perfect.
The baby we never see. We hear it. We know it exists, but we never see it. And wherever it is sans bib. So it could be chained up in the basement for all we know. Not to even mention the comical drunk younger brother collapsing into a table full of stuff, and then weirdly a stripper dancing topless at a society function. But the ice cream bib is hanging in the Sleazotorium. That is the perfect way. Probably next to the crotch of those pants that he kept for posterity, the pleatherette cargo pants. So that's it. We have come to the
I
end.
better go, man, because it's getting pretty late. But that was lovely and brilliant as always. Thank you very much for having me on, Sleazy. But I do enjoy talking about it. I don't mind. But the problem with a lot of the Spader films, I find, although this one was pretty bad, is that sometimes they can just be boring, and that I can't hack that. This was at least it was terrible enough that I was kind of fascinated by it. But not really. So in terms of next week and movies from now on. So one of the films I watched last week was Dragon Slayer, which I've never seen, with Peter McNichol and whatnot. And I really enjoyed it. It was really good. So and that was on Prime. And you're always going on about how Prime's got loads of really fun, cool old films from the 80s. And I'm even going through it. There was loads on there that I like the sound of. So I think what I'd like to do, at least to begin with, is have a little look and maybe go after some classic 80s kind of films that I've never seen but like the sound of.
I have. If there's a streaming channel, I have it. And you're always going on about how Prime. So don't worry about
going down that Dragon Slayer rabbit hole. Was there's some really good films here that I really like the sound of, and I've never even heard of them.
Okay, but it can be any genre. It can be whatever you want. I will watch it. Now, listen, if I've sat through Slow Burn and Keys to Tulsa, I can sit through anything you're going to pick.
Great, perfect. I'll have a look. I'll have a look this weekend.
Hopefully, because you also did pick Anger of the Dead, which I seem to remember was awful.
Yeah, but that was because it was in the cinema.
Yeah, all right.
It was a low-budget zombie film in the cinema. Yeah. How are we going to turn that down? I mean, we should have done, obviously. Nonetheless, seriously, these days, how many times are you going to get to see a proper low-budget zombie film in a cinema in New York? Hardly ever. So it was worth it.
It was. Yes. All right, I'll go with that. But anyway, this has been a thrill. We have turned, I hope, podcasting wine from Spader's weak water.
Spader's ice cream jism.
And we have hopefully entertained for the last couple of hours. Stay safe out there. Stay well, everybody. And stay sane. And I would try and urge, again, everyone, because I am dialing back on the socials probably going forward. I'm probably pretty much dialing back on all social media going forward. So please do subscribe to us on all of the platforms so that you get constant updates about when the podcast is coming out. And if you want to reach out to us, as people have so happily proven, you can do so via multiple means, email and contact form on the website and everything else. Check it out, all on aftermoviediner.com. Click the contact us button. Just do it that way, because I'm
happy to take recommendations too. So if people want to write in with recommendations, like the John Cryer thing, people, if they listen to the show, they know what I like. So they can try and recommend me things.
I'm more interested in pure, unadulterated gym picks. I'm more interested in that.
All right, fair enough.
I am. I mean, by all means, suggest things, but I like to disappoint our listeners. It's been a tried and tested.
I was going to say, why stop now?
Yeah, and proven thing. So anyway, thanks so much, dude. All the best. This was great. I don't even have to do any editing. I think there was no edit points the whole show.
Huzzah! Well, let's try and keep that as a thing to aim for in the future.
All right, man. Thanks so much. I really, really needed this.
Yeah, me too, man. Me
Take
too.
care. We'll talk next week.
See you next week. Bye, man.
Bye.
Bye.
The pool is missing water. Let's fill it up with cake. The decorations for the party, the kids will have to make. Well, I gave my love an enema. She thought it was a mistake. In the morning, the bats have held dominion in the underground car park. Yet Alan the bat's having problems because he's always been afraid of the dark. Well, it's unlucky he was born a bat. dog, and a toothbrush to clean up his bite, and a 8-foot plastic statue of Elvis that glows luminous pink in the night, but not in the morning. Not in the morning. It's been too long since you smiled. Cheer up, you grumpy old sow. You tried to tell me all your memories, but I told you I don't have a cow. I wanted to leave, but there was never the time. But the situation's arisen now, but here in the morning. Here in the morning. The morning. Bring me the head of Jeff Lynne. Yes, bring me the head of Jeff Lynne.